We're going to begin with the model, and there are several structures I want to show you that are superficial, which increases its surface area. The bumps are called gyri. One bump is a gyrus. The creases are called sulci. One crease is a sulcus. A very deep crease or sulcus is a fissure. The cerebrum is composed of two hemispheres, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. The two halves of the brain are separated by a deep crevice called the longitudinal fissure. The fissure goes down to an internal structure called the corpus callosum, which we will identify shortly. The cerebrum is divided into lobes or regions, and the lobes are named for the bones of the skull which cover them. The anterior-most portion is called the frontal lobe. Higher thinking processing occurs here, as does primary motor control. The parietal lobes are next, and they're separated anteriorly from the frontal lobes.
Is called the central sulcus, and the bump in front.
The central sulcus is called the precentral gyrus. Pre means before. The gyrus behind the central sulcus is called the postcentral gyrus. Post means after. The precentral gyrus is responsible for primary motor control. When I want to wiggle my finger, that thought starts here. The postcentral gyrus receives what we call somatosensory, meaning that the feelings that we have of our skin of our body go to this area and we feel the pain here. Precentral gyrus, postcentral gyrus, and I know it's the central sulcus because it's the one that comes all the way to the middle. These are on both sides. The central sulcus is here, precentral gyrus, postcentral gyrus. As we look at the lobes again, frontal lobe, parietal lobe. The temporal lobe is here. I always remember this is the front of the brain because it looks like a mitten. See the thumb? The thumb is the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe is separated from the parietal lobe by the lateral sulcus. The lateral sulcus. The functions here include hearing and taste. The occipital lobe is posterior. This is the occipital lobe, and this is where vision is. This is where your vision goes, from the front all the way to the back. Here they are. They are also called hemispheres. They're called the cerebellar hemispheres. And sometimes the cerebellum is referred to as the little brain. And I remember cerebellum has an L in it, so it is the little brain. Cerebellum, cerebellum, together. Cerebrum. There's a worm-like structure that separates each hemisphere of the cerebellum, and it is called the vermis because it looks like a worm. The cerebellum helps coordinate muscle movement and aids in equilibrium. The brain stem is composed of three parts: the medulla, the pons, and the midbrain. Medulla, pons, midbrain. I always think of it as a stem because it looks like a flower stem, with the cerebrum being the flower head.